All right, everyone, welcome back. Today I have one of my Road to Remission clients here with me. Her name is Andrea, and we're going to talk about her IC journey and how she went from daily symptoms to being nearly symptom-free in a span of like one-ish year. So, welcome to ICU, Andrea.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. I had Amy, you know Amy, but
Yeah.
everybody, if you guys haven't listened to my other episode with one of my other clients, her name is Amy. So this is the second of my clients that I'm bringing on the show. So it's really exciting. So Andrea, can you start us off by introducing yourself, and then we'll get
Yeah,
into the IC stuff?
absolutely. My name is Andrea. I am a mother of two. Um, I have had IC diagnosed for about 1 year now, and am nearly symptom free now. Um, I don't know. Do you want me to talk about my journey?
Yeah.
Or
So why
okay,
don't you start off with saying like when your symptoms started and what they
okay,
specifically were?
perfect. So my symptoms started last January. Um, I was going through a super, super, super stressful time, personally, and had, um, I got a UTI, just came out of nowhere, and the symptoms never went away. Um, I had like burning after urination, frequency, urgency. The worst symptom I think I had was urethral pain, which was like the worst. It was awful. That was like 24 hours every single day. Um, I think I saw something that I don't know if it was on your podcast, but um, it was someone said something about like you shouldn't feel your urethra, and that's like, I was like, oh my gosh, I resonate with that so much because it was like, I didn't even know I had one until this all happened. Um, but yeah, so I just, that's how it started for me.
And how long ago was that?
That was about a year ago. So I had symptoms in January, and then I wasn't diagnosed until I actually got a doctor's appointment on my birthday. So I was diagnosed on my birthday last year. Um, Yeah, so about a year ago.
How was the diagnostic process for you? Was it easy or was it more difficult?
So I actually went to a urologist first, um, because my mother has IC, so I know all the symptoms of IC, but for some reason I was just not connecting it. I was like, okay, no, I don't have that. Like, there's just no way. This was just like a UTI, and it's not going away. So I did go to, like I said, the urologist, and she was helpful. She knew a lot about IC. She said it could be, or it could be residual, like symptoms from the UTI. And she kind of just gave me medicine. She gave me medicine and said, I'll see you in 6 weeks. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't do this for another 6 weeks. And it wasn't until like I kind of was like, okay, so could this be IC? I Googled, Google, lovely Google, is it hereditary? And it said it was hereditary. And I was like, okay, yes, this has got to be what I have. So then I got in touch with a specialist in the area that I live in. And
That we live in,
that
which
we live in.
we
Uh
are in
huh.
the same area, but we still
I
haven't
know.
met in person.
And we have the same doctor. So crazy. It's so crazy. It's so crazy to me. But I had, his 3 hour like phone conversation, and he actually had a history with my mother because my mother went to see him for years, probably 20 years ago when he first started. Um, so he knew that I knew a lot about IC, and after like our conversation, he sent a report, and like, this is kind of like what I think that's going on with you. And it was, vulvodynia, IC, and then all his recommendations. So I like took all his recommendations, and I ordered the aloe vera and the Relivium and all the things. So I then saw him, when was it? It was like from that was probably in May, and then I saw him in April, the end of April. And then he examined me, and I think it was my first visit, I had like 14 trigger point injections all over my body, down there. It was like very traumatizing. Um, but yeah, so that was kind of like how I got my diagnosis.
What was it like? And I hope this question is okay. What was it like
Yeah,
growing up
no.
with a mom that had IC?
It was awful. So I think, 20 years back, they didn't have as much knowledge. Not that they have like so much now, but like 20 years ago, it was like um, nearly non-existent. And she did see some of the top doctors. So she did see, you had him on your podcast. I can't remember his name. Maldwin,
Dr. Moldwin,
Dr. Muldrin. She did go to Staten.
Long
Where is he
Island.
from? Long Island to see
Mhm.
him. And she just it just I feel like she went into remission a few times, but hers was bad, like so bad that I don't I it was terrifying. So when I got diagnosed with it, I was like, oh my god, like my life is over, this is going to be my life. And I think that was the scariest thing, because my mom did um try to take her life a few times from it, and I watched that happen. And oh goodness, it was that, I think that was the scariest thing, of thinking that my life is over. I had a daughter in college, a son ready to graduate high school. I thought I was going to miss everything, and it took me a really long time to get into the mental space that that's not going to be me. I'm not going to let that happen. um yeah, so
Yeah. That's
yeah,
a
it's
really hard thing to go through, I'm sure.
very.
And you're right about the mindset shift. I was just talking about this with Nicole Cozine on a previous episode. Like when you get diagnosed and you see all the people suffering on the internet and social media, and you're like,
Yeah,
is this going to be my life? And for you,
right.
you had like a firsthand experience of seeing your
Yeah,
mom growing up with that. Like that definitely had to be a scary feeling. But for you, it sounds like what drove you to become motivated to get relief was like your kids essentially wanting to be there
yeah,
for them.
yeah. My kids. And I think something like where, that mind shift, that I was like, okay, this is and it was when I joined your program, and I went on to some of the calls. Um, and it was just so motivating and uplifting. And I remember the first call I got off of, I'm like, okay, I got this. I was like, I am not my mother. This isn't going to be me. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to get this under control. And it was just all uphill from there. Like, I needed that, because you go to the support groups online, and I'm sure they're helpful for some people, but they're just a lot of doom and gloom, and kind of like the worst case scenarios that you read, and everyone giving their opinion, and that I think made me worse.
For
So
sure.
yeah.
I've recently been seeing a lot of posts essentially being like people venting where they're like, I
Yes.
feel like I am at the end of my rope. How are doctors letting us just be in pain like this? And
Yeah.
part of me definitely is like, yeah, I have been there. It's a really crappy feeling, but at the same time, like you can't stay in that mindset for too long because it's
Yeah.
really it's toxic. It's not helping
Yeah.
you. So, I mean, I struggle to verbalize that to people because I don't want it to come across as like insensitive or mean or anything like that. But for me, it's like when I started to change my mindset and pull myself out of that like years long pity party I was throwing myself, like that's when things started to change. So
Yeah.
I don't really know where I'm going with this, but lately that's been
Yeah.
bothering me.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I remember just like, I think I just joined your group, and I was reading something, like I didn't I didn't get off of the groups yet. And I was reading something about July 4th, and I don't know why this resonated with me, but I was just like, they're talking about like, oh my gosh, like what are you going to splurge? Are you going to cheat? Like, what are you going to have to eat this July 4th? And some people were like, I'm going to have a hamburger. And like, people were like, you can't have hamburgers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, no, I have to get off of this.
Yeah.
So then I
It's
started like snoozing them. It was just like, I don't know.
it's a lot. It
It is a
really
lot.
is a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So how prior to us meeting, like how was your IC affecting your life? Like what changes were you seeing like physically, socially, emotionally?
So I lost a lot of weight. I obsessed about everything I put in my mouth. Like I Googled everything, like, okay, can I eat this? Like every time I was going to eat something, if you have interstitial cystitis, can you eat this? I just stopped going out to dinner. I didn't want to do anything. I still went to work every day. But that was awful. But I'm grateful that I had such a positive, supportive work environment because I told everybody what I was going through and I would literally cry all day long. I think I cried for 3.5 months every single day, all day. And I'm not exaggerating at all. I would get home and I would just, my poor husband, he was like, I don't know how he like put up with me for that long because I was just like so depressed and crying all the time and asking him, am I going to be like this forever? Is this my life? And he would just assure me, no, you're not. You're not. I don't know where I was going with this, but
Hey, I'm just gonna
yeah.
say in sickness and in health, I love
Yes,
that he was supportive.
he
That's
did.
amazing.
So yeah, so like we've decided like, okay, so let's like I remember I'm like, I think that that 70s show got me through like the first like 4 or 5 months of having this because that would be like we would just sit down and be like, okay, we're not going to think about it. We're just going to binge watch this show from first season to the last. And I still to this day was like, that 70s show just saved my life.
That's so funny. Who's your favorite
Yeah.
character?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I love them all.
Mine is Ashton Kutcher's character.
Yeah, Ashton Kutcher's character is good, but I actually liked Mila Kunis's character too. I thought she was
Yes.
hilarious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No,
They're all
that
just
show's
good.
great.
Yeah. So great. So great. I was like, thank God for that.
Yeah, so that got you through. Okay. And
Yeah.
then, so you said that when you were diagnosed, you were started on some medications. Can I ask what those were?
Yeah, so it was just a desert harvest aloe vera.
Okay.
And then I was on so many medications. I was on, okay, I'm trying to think back. I was taking the desert harvest and then I was taking Urabel every day, 3 times a day. Um, what else did I take for?
Do
Oh,
you take like,
Gemtesa.
okay.
Gemtesa. I was taking Gemtesa. And then at night, I would take I had nortriptyline, Elmron. Oh yeah, Elmron morning and night. Um, hydroxyzine, is that what it's
Hmm.
called? It's like the little blue pill, hydroxyzine. And I think that's it.
Yeah. That
But
is
it's still a lot.
still a lot. I mean,
It is. And I was actually getting bladder instillations as well on top of it. And I
okay.
remember I had when I had the bladder instillations and I was on all this new medication, I was having just such dizzy spells that I actually fainted. I actually passed out. I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I'll never forget. I was in New York with my daughter, and I walked into the bathroom, and I just went down. I banged my head on the counter. It was awful, awful, and it was like maybe like 2 days after a bladder installation. So I don't know if that has like a side effect to that. Um, but so the side effects were super, super bad in the beginning, but as it went on, they did go away. Thank
Hmm.
God for me.
If you could go back, knowing what you know now, would you have still done all of those things, like the meds and the
Um,
installations?
Probably not. I don't think so because now I think it's controlled, but now I'm still take them because now I'm afraid. to stop taking them because I'm afraid. Like I'm not on. I
Yeah.
got off the Gentessa. Um, I stopped taking that like myself. I was like, okay, I don't need this anymore. But the other stuff, I'm just so afraid to stop taking.
hmm
So if
And
it's help,
that's fair,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're just I think your nervous system's probably just trying to protect you,
yeah,
and I think that's a normal response, honestly.
yeah. Um, I I don't get bladder installations anymore though. I haven't had them since last summer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did So, okay, we talked about where you were when you were diagnosed. So,
yeah.
at what point did you find me and my account and decide to join Road to Remission?
I think that I was on I saw your name. I think it was the IC network. I think she had you on there. It said like to check out Allie, I can't say your last name. Fraser TikTok account. So I was like, I was like scrolling on the internet and I'm like, okay, I'll check her out. So then I clicked on your content and like the first thing was like you were so positive and so uplifting and I'm like it's the first time I heard anyone talk about and funny like your posts were funny too.
Thank
um
you.
and it was they were funny and I was like oh my god like how did I not like see this before. And it was just you saying like you don't have to be on the icy diet forever and all your stuff was just so hopeful and I think that night I signed up for your what is it?
You signed up for the IC Collective,
The
and then within like a
collective.
few hours, you joined Road
Yeah,
to Remission. I got all these
yes,
emails. I was like,
yes.
"What's going
I
on?"
I was like, I have to do this. I have to do this thing. This is I just had such a good feeling about it. And then like you said it was so weird because then you're like, oh yeah, like I'm from the Lehigh Valley and I'm like, me too. And then you were like, you said I don't know how we were talking about doctors, but I was like, I said, this is my doctor. And you're like, that's my doctor. And I'm like, okay, this is like meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
was. That's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, you join Road to Remission. So, why don't we dive into like the things that we had you do at first? So, we had our
Mhm.
one-on-one call and then we had you start doing an elimination diet right away, right?
Right. So I didn't do like the full 2 weeks because I was already on the elimination diet for so long. I
Right.
think I started like the IC diet January after my appointment with the urologist. And so I think I went into testing pretty fast.
And to
Um
give everyone context who's listening,
yeah.
in the program, we break the elimination diet into three phases. So, phase one is baseline, which is just a week of tracking everything, not making diet changes. Phase two is elimination. So that's 3 to 4 weeks of eating bladder friendly, removing those most bothersome foods and beverages from your diet. And then after that, you go into a testing phase, which is where you will add or test foods and drinks one at a time to see your body's unique response. So when someone like Andrea comes to us who's already following a strict IC diet, we really don't need that second phase. We still need the baseline because we need that data. But when it comes to people in that scenario, you've already been restricting. We don't want to lengthen that process. So we essentially have those people just dive into the testing phase and not wait any longer. So, what did that testing phase look like for you, Andrea? Did you have a lot of success? Did you have any food fear you were working through?
Um I think that I I was very, very, very proactive. Like I don't know if that's the word I'm trying to say. But I tracked everything. I tracked my urine and all of that. I was like faithful in doing all of those things. I didn't see a change too much. Like I was like, okay, I still feel kind of the same. Maybe I feel a little better. I don't know if it was um and all like kind of like you have it in your head that you're on this uh, you're you're on this elimination diet and you're bringing things back and um what am I trying to say? Yeah, no, I didn't have like much of a difference. Like, I didn't have a difference
Mhm.
in my
So
symptoms. So I
so we
I would
pretty
try
much
things. Yeah,
determined that you weren't diet
right,
sensitive.
right. I mean, there were certain things. I think the one thing that I was a little sensitive to was vinegar. That
Mhm.
was the that was one thing that I think I was afraid to eat it, but
You
now
sound
I'm eating it now. Yeah,
exactly like
I know.
Amy.
I know. I was couldn't have vinegar. I couldn't have vinegar. I tried it and I felt like that's when my symptoms got a little worse.
Mhm.
But I honestly don't know if it was because I was worried that because that's a super huge bladder
Yeah.
like irritant. So,
Yeah, the stress
but
of
like,
that can definitely
yeah,
contribute. And then
yeah,
also, I mean, you can be sensitive to a couple things. It could be that all of the other factors or triggers like stress, hormones, whatever, that could all just
right,
be irritating your pelvic floor and your bladder so much that, yeah, your like window of tolerance, we'll call it in terms of like diet irritants, like it can just kind of put you over the edge.
right. So I like every night I would watch one of your educational things. Like I did all of that pretty quickly. And then things just started making sense to me. I was connecting the dots. Like I thought, okay, stress. I've always been so highly stressed all the time. Um, and my pelvic floor has always been very tight. I've always had like painful sex. So I knew that it had to be, I tried like, what was I going to say? Oh,
The
I was going to the physical therapy. So, like, I started physical therapy early on in my journey. I don't know if I said that. But then I got like more. I started be going more and more and more and more, and I found I went through 3 physical therapists. I found a wonderful physical therapist who I feel like helped me so much. Um, so then I started working on that, and then my nervous system. I started, doing meditations and breathing and yoga and hiking, like miles and miles and miles and miles and miles a day. That was my also a way of meditating. So like working on those 2 things and working on my hormones. I started seed cycling um, because I noticed a lot of my flares would come while I was ovulating. That was like a big time where I would get flares every month on the dot, same time. So yeah, so then I just started connecting the dots, and when I started working on those things, my symptoms just started going away completely.
Mhm. Your story sounds so similar to mine with that. And that's
Yeah,
the case for so many people. It's like
yeah,
you struggle and you struggle and you struggle, you try everything and then all of a
yeah,
sudden you learn about these other things like in your case like the nervous system dysregulation and the pelvic floor dysfunction and it's like a light bulb goes off in your head and now you know things that you can start trying and then you try them and you find what works and then your symptoms disappear. It's like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's amazing and I think that those 2 things are the most common root causes I'm seeing among my clients, but also you mentioned, like, you have some hormonal flares and you
yes,
did the seed cycling, and whenever I talk about seed cycling, people are like, "What is that?" So, if you guys aren't familiar with seed cycling, I did a whole episode on it with Kate, she's a hormone dietitian in season 2 of this podcast, so just go back and listen to that, but basically, you're eating different seeds at different parts of your cycle to optimize nutrition. And I'm also seed cycling. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Do you
do you
like
feel like
it?
it
I
was
I feel like it was so helpful. I
yeah.
really do. Like I feel like it was super helpful. Even just with like my PMS symptoms, I would just get so like almost like rage like the week before my period. I couldn't like handle any kind of pressure or stress. And I feel like that's helped so much with like regulating that.
Mhm.
That was like my biggest thing, I think. And obviously like the flares, I don't have them. I don't know if it's from the seed cycling or just a combination of everything and regulating my nervous system and working on that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I probably won't stop doing it. It's really even to the day like where I track my cycle, like it'll say like, okay, you're gonna get it this day, and I get it like that day every time. So it's just like leveled me out.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
funny because you talk about this rage that you had, and I
Oh
am
my
like
gosh.
to
Yeah.
my core filled with rage all the
Uh-huh.
time. And for me, that is just the
Yeah.
biggest sign that like my nervous system is fight or flight, like
Right.
textbook. And
Yeah.
my boyfriend Sean always says, like, your rage monster is showing. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
I can't help it. I
Yeah,
can't.
no, my husband says the same thing. He knows every time because he'll just like chew, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, like do you have to chew that way?" And I'll have to like leave the room, and I'll just get like I'll have like a complete like a melt like a child like a temper
Yeah.
tantrum. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
but I do feel like that's helped a lot, and it's just crazy how something like that can help. I don't
Yeah.
understand it, but it works, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, it sure does. So you have been doing physical therapy. Did you start using a pelvic wand at any point?
I did when I joined your group. So I think my doctor had me using because sex was just so painful. That was one another thing that flared me a lot. And I was afraid to be intimate with my husband um because I would have a flare for like 3 days after. But I started using he had what was I saying here? Oh, he had me using and what are they called? The
A
little
dilator?
dilators, yes. So I don't feel like those helped me at all. But then as soon as I started using the wand, I was like, this is a game changer.
Hmm.
Total
Yeah.
game changer. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that with a lot of people, and for me as well. Like I've been using it like almost every day, but now my symptoms have been kind of flaring a bit because of
Yeah.
stress, and so I've been using it daily, and it's like
Yeah.
you can really feel a difference. Like I'll go into it feeling tight, and when I
Yep.
put the tip of the wand on my muscles, it's like, okay, yeah, I do feel that tightness, and then I
Hmm.
do feel it kind of stretching, and then when I'm done, I'm like, ooh, feel a lot
Yeah.
better.
You know,
This
my
is
and my
great.
physical therapist actually taught me like all kinds of exercise to do with it too. Like kind of like flat sort of like a Kegel, but not really. And and that works. Oh my gosh, that's like my go-to when I'm feeling super tight. I'll do that and I'll feel like great
Are you supposed
afterwards.
to like kind of almost flex
Kind
your muscles for a few seconds and then let
sort of
go?
it's like it's the one where they're like, okay, like pretend you're picking up a blueberry with your vagina. And then
What a weird thing to say,
I
but
know,
okay.
but I think of that every time. And and then you count to like 5 and then you like release everything
Mhm,
with the wand being on like sides of your muscles there, and I love that.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of used to
Yeah.
do that in college when I was playing
Yeah.
volleyball. Like they had me doing that with like my hamstrings. Like I would like kind of someone would be there and I'd be pushing on
Yeah.
it a little bit on their arm and then they would let go and then I would stretch back more.
Yeah, sort of
Yeah.
just yeah, that's exactly like it. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a name for it.
I
I
know.
don't know.
But
Okay,
I too
so
have I started I would use it every day, but now I feel like I'm slacking off. Um
yeah.
and I can see I definitely tell a difference from slacking off. So I've been trying to do it a little more than 2 days a week because I
Mhm.
was like doing it like 1 or 2 days a week. So now I kind of like started doing a little more.
I used to look at it as like this chore, but now I've
Yeah.
changed my view of it because it is so helpful that I'll take my shower and then I'll do my wand for like 3 minutes and then I get on with my
Yeah,
day.
that's
Like it's part of the
basically what
routine.
I do. Yeah.
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 So, okay, we had those two root causes, some hormone issues there. So you mentioned how you were learning from our education vault, but also I wanted to dive into our group calls. Like, can you talk more about your experience on those?
So that was probably my favorite part of the program, and I really got to get on a call. I've just been so busy. Like this my kids are graduating college and high school, and my parents, I'm taking care of them. But I think out of everything that's helped me the most, just hearing from other people of what they're going through, and listening to what like worked for them, and trying out like their like give they their advice and what worked for them, and um yeah, just having that support system I think really helped me get to where I am now. Such a positive support system. And I feel like they're like family. Like I think about them all the time. Um, reach out to see how they're doing. Like it's just such a nice community of women and people like rooting for you and yeah, super helpful. That's my
Yeah. It was
definitely
really
my
my
favorite part.
goal in creating this program to not be like other support groups because
Yeah.
like we
Well, it's
said,
you're
they
not.
are,
You're definitely not.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're very, they can be negative and we talk about this a lot. But it's like for us, we are focused on getting better. We're focused
Mhm.
on positivity. Like, yeah, you're allowed to have moments where you're struggling and we're there. We expect you to lean in for support and ask for help, but everybody, I don't know how I got so lucky. Like everybody just fits together so well. Everyone's so supportive and encouraging and like I don't know. Yesterday we were on a call celebrating Jean had a really important win lately, and
Oh,
everybody
I
was
love
literally
her.
like clapping, and it was the
I oh
cutest thing I've
yes.
ever seen.
That's awesome. Oh,
I
that's so
know.
great. I love
I
it.
know. And
Oh,
we
she's
we
so
do
great.
two of those every week. Everybody gets like lifetime access for everyone listening. So, yeah, Andrea, you joined over a year ago and it's like you can still join these calls. You can still
Yeah.
watch all of our education. Like we're always adding to it. We just added like a gut health class. So, it's always growing.
And I do watch. I'll go back and watch some of the calls like when I'm not on them. I do. I like just to see like what everyone's how everyone's doing and it's helpful to me too because sometimes someone will be having the same issue that I'm having and they talk about what's helping and working for them and I'm like, "Okay, all right, let's try it. Let's give that a try."
Right. Sometimes you can learn more from each other than you can from doctors.
Absolute. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do your symptoms look like now?
So I have been symptom free pretty much to the most part. Um, I did have an issue. I was just on vacation and I had a pretty stressful day. That I had like a minor. I wouldn't even know if you called it a car accident. It was so weird. Like we went over this bump and the airbags deployed and that was freaking scary. Um, and I woke up the next day and I had like the frequency and the urgency, and I'm like, okay, like this is like if there's no, this is definitely like stress related. Like I know that I'm definitely like that's one of my biggest thing is stress related because I haven't had a symptom in so long, and it was just a super stressful day, and that just kind of like I don't know if I like was um I'm sure I was like clenching my pelvic area and just being completely stressed out. But I had my tools and I was on vacation and I just said, okay, like I'm gonna be fine. And I was able to have that flare gone by the next day.
Mhm.
So stress is definitely a big, big, big one for me. And I
Yep,
think it
I
has
can
been
relate.
my whole life because I always had like frequency and urgency, like since I was a child. Like I remember, having to go to the bathroom and stop and on every car ride like 4 times. Um, but never, I don't know. I just thought I had like a tiny bladder.
Mhm. Yeah, and, you did have this flare, and we can identify exactly what it was from, and you
Yeah,
had, like you said, the tools to treat it, but I also wanted to highlight quickly because you did go through a period of, like, 4 or 5 months where you were
yeah,
completely symptom-free.
yeah, like nothing. Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely gonna be ups and downs, and there are people who go into remission, but I think it really just depends what your root cause is. And when you're struggling with nervous system dysregulation and stress is your biggest trigger, like the both
yeah,
of us, it's like you can't avoid stress in your life. So we're just doing our best to like cope with stress that pops up. But sometimes, like in your example of the car accident, like you can't really predict that. It comes out of
right.
nowhere
Yeah.
and your airbag gets deployed. Like that is something that will set off your fight or flight response.
Oh my gosh. I was like they say like the zones, I was a red zone for like 2 hours. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I was so traumatized.
Yeah, no, my stray cat in my basement, the first day I had him, he tried to escape his cage and he bit me really hard. Not his fault, but I
Yeah,
remember like my hands were shaking. I was like, I need to sit down. I was sweating.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
this is insane how our bodies just make these changes so quickly.
yeah. Yeah,
But
it's interesting. It's interesting when you start like really kind of reading about nervous system regulation and how it's like attached to so many things, autoimmune things, and it's crazy. Like,
I think it's hard to wrap your brain around until you start really reading into it and learning more about it.
yeah,
Like, for example, we just had one of our Road to Remission clients. She struggles with, like, when she gets in a flare, she really catastrophizes and has that health anxiety of, like, what if?
hmm,
What if I can't be there for my kids? What if this is the
hmm,
rest of my life? And
yeah,
that's something she was really going through. And I was like, listen, I really think this is a nervous system issue. I think that's the biggest contributor to your symptoms. I would highly recommend, watching our 3-part nervous system series, In Road to Remission, and also reading The Way Out by Alan Gordon, because it's a really good book. And
yeah,
there was there's a lot of skepticism at first, but eventually she did it because she was desperate.
hmm,
And she DM'd me the next day and was like, holy crap, I did not realize how much this was affecting me. Like, I am
yeah.
classic fight or flight. And she sent me a DM and was like, since reading that book, I've tripled my bladder capacity and I significantly decreased my bladder pain. And that was within a few days. I was like, this is just a
That,
prime example of
yeah,
how effective that can be.
yeah. I read that was one of the first books I read that my doctor told me to read, and it was like game changer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You have to read that book if you are suffering with any kind of pain or chronic conditions because it makes sense. Like
Definitely.
it definitely makes sense. And
Mhm.
and I think he tells it in a way that is easy to understand too.
Yeah. What do you typically do to manage your flares?
So I am a breather. Like I'll do like some four-sided breaths and I like meditation. I know a lot of people are like, how do you do that? But I can just get in such a zone that it just kind of completely relaxes my body. I prefer like the guided meditations. I love there's one on the program Vital Side that I think you're doing that too, right?
Mhm.
Um, that it's like 33 minutes long. And anytime I feel like super stressed, I will do that meditation and it just like helps me tremendously. Um, so I think, meditation, breathing, kind of reframing negative thoughts,
Mhm.
therapy, therapy, lots of therapy.
Lots and
So once
lots.
once a week, yeah, still. So yeah, like all those things. Learning about the nervous system, I think, is being knowledgeable about how your brain works. Um, was helpful for me too.
Definitely. I think
Yeah,
having all that knowledge just really empowers you and
yeah,
helps you make informed decisions with confidence.
yeah, and definitely the somatic tracking and the somatic meditations. I still use Curable from time to time for their some of their meditations, but I think that's my favorite thing is the meditating.
Yeah.
Yoga, like I've 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 got to like get back into my exercise routine. I've kind of fallen off the wagon, but I think that's super important too, just moving your body. Um, yeah,
Are there things that you're able to do now that you couldn't before?
I can go for a car ride and not have to go to the bathroom for like 3 to 4 hours. Like that is unheard of, like ever in my life. Um, What else? So yeah, so I was deathly afraid of swimming because I read on like I think I read on some of the support pages that you can't, don't go in chlorine or don't 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 swim or don't go in hot tubs. So literally last summer I did not swim. I didn't go in a hot tub. And then I was on vacation just last week and I swam all the time. I went in hot tubs all day and I didn't change my bathing suit. I left it wet and let it dry and I was fine. So
Wow.
so that was a big thing for me. I was afraid to like go in the pool. I was afraid to yeah, I was
So,
afraid of like swimming again, and just because I was afraid it would give me like a UTI.
mhm.
Not that UTIs have ever been like a huge thing for me. I think I might have had one or two in my entire life.
It's just that
Um,
fear, and you
oh,
saw
it
a
is
lot of
that
that.
fear. Oh my gosh, yeah. So that was
Yeah.
one thing that the hurdle I did not get over until like just last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how are you doing with like eating? Are you back to eating and drinking like almost
I
everything?
I eat and drink everything. I do. I had, on vacation, I had like one or two glasses of wine a day. Um, had Mexican food, had spicy food, had um everything. I honestly don't think I'm food sensitive. Um, but I yeah, no, I think I can't I eat everything. Eat
Mhm.
everything. And okay, no, I lie. I just lied. I have not tried. I mean, I'm sure it's in some of the food I ate, and I don't know why I haven't tried this yet. Maybe because I'm not like a big fan of it. It's not something that I like miss, but citrusy foods.
Okay.
I haven't like tried that. Like, yeah, I think that's my one thing I haven't tried like an orange or I think I tried lemons and limes and I was okay with that, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, or pineapple or anything like that. I'm like afraid to. I don't know why. So weird.
Well, Andrea, we can work
We
on
need
that.
we need to work on that. We need to work on the citrus fruit side. I don't know
We can
why
do
I'm so
that.
yeah, I
Yeah. I
am.
mean,
I'm gonna have to start testing that.
yeah. And I think it's totally valid. I mean, we've already talked about this, but there's
Right.
so many things you read, your doctor's telling you not to eat these things. There's
Yeah.
these like rules in your head. And I was just talking on a recent episode with Kia, she's an eating disorder dietitian, about the food rules that we have. And
Yeah.
it can take a lot of preparation to work through some of that fear. So
Right.
yeah,
And I think
completely
that
valid.
I stay away from because I have eating disorder that I go in and out of remission on, and one of my biggest fears with that was sugar. So I where I think of like a citrusy food, I correlate that with like a lot of sugar in it.
Hmm.
And in my mind, I was like, okay, I don't want to eat sugar. I don't want to eat any of that. So that could be it too. So I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah,
Still trying to
yeah,
figure it out. It's like every day you're figuring something new out.
exactly.
Yeah,
But it sounds like, things are going really well for you. Are you
they
still
are.
getting any sort of treatment? I know are you still doing PT?
Um, I do PT, yeah. So I do PT now once a month.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
So I still am doing PT. Slacking on my stretches. I just have to stay. I have to get better. I was doing them like every day, like faithfully, and now I'm like, all right, I don't need to do them anymore. I feel great. So, but I think that you really should have to upkeep and to make sure that keep yourself healthy. But I don't know. I think I'm just so. I think I went from not being able to sit still and relax for so long that now I can. So that's all I want to do.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's so funny.
Yeah.
So if you could tell, okay, if you were talking to someone
Yep.
that's listening right now who's currently struggling, they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, they don't feel like they can get better. Maybe they're new to this diagnosis. Like, is there a piece of advice that you would have for them?
Yes. Don't Google. Don't Google every symptom because you will go down that rabbit hole and you will end up feeling worse because you will catastrophize and be obsessed about everything you read. Um, Definitely join Road to Remission because
I
it
didn't
will
tell her
help
to
you.
say that.
You didn't tell me to say that, and I don't get paid for this. thinking
Oh,
about that comment that someone put on your thing that one time, and I'm like, she
oh,
definitely gets paid for this. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm just I got helped, and I just want to like be able to help everybody, and tell them, joy to road to remission, because it is definitely a safe, positive environment. And I can promise you that you will feel better once you join.
how long did it
Yeah.
take you to start seeing relief from your symptoms after joining us?
So I'm not, this sounds like really crazy, but like after my first call, I got off feeling so hopeful, and like this just weight was just off of me. And I said to my husband, oh my gosh, like that was so amazing. And I feel better already. And he was just like, okay. And I went on every single call. I think I changed my work schedule so I could be on Monday call, and then Wednesday, and then we changed it to Thursday, for like, for a long time, for like, I don't even know how long, but, um, yeah, those calls really helped me and changed everything. It was a game changer.
Yeah. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Um, I don't know. Like, don't think that you have to try um all these medications if you don't feel comfortable with it. A lot of them are helpful. They don't work for everybody. Um, just listen to your gut, I think.
Mhm. We love that. Listen to your
Yeah.
gut, listen to your
Listen to your gut,
body.
because you're usually right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And if anybody who's listening to this has questions, are you cool with me sending them your way?
Absolutely. Anytime, anything I can do to help anybody. Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Andrea, for coming on and sharing your story. I think this is really powerful. I mean, obviously, all the interviews I do with experts are great, but hearing, someone's personal experience, I think it goes a long way.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.